Okay, so last class, right? Everybody's here. We had a fun ride. Let's finish graphs, although we kind of finished what we had to do for homeworks and exams, the basic stuff. We'll do some more interesting things today. I choose to keep going with graphs rather than showing you guys other things like convexity arguments, because those are more computer science oriented, as convexity is pure math. Just a quick recap. Today is that there's a homework due today. I think the homework's easy, but we'll see. Office hours, like usual. Friday, weekend, you know when I say Friday, it's really Sunday. We'll do honors problem 5, the skip lists. You could do the demos after Sunday. Magnus and Rob announced or already announced some dates that you can do the demos. But you cannot submit that problem after Sunday because we need time to look at those things. So I'm serious about this. I know many of you are still submitting problem 4. That's okay. I'm not keen on deadlines, but these ones you will not be able to submit it on Grayscope after or by email or whatever after Sunday. The demo you can do. If you want to see the TA, even after the final, if they're available, you can do the demo and do the demo done. Monday will be an exam review. That's next Monday. I think it's at 12 p.m., 2-3 hours. We'll work some problems. It's the typical exam review. You don't have to come for that one if you don't want to. Tuesday is the final exam. And tomorrow we'll do all recitations in an optional fashion. These recitations tomorrow will not be about anything related to your exam. Probably I'm going to do the convexity that I had in mind from the beginning, and I don't get to do it today. So that won't help the exam, it will be just mathematics. Everybody from Thursday can also come to one of those sections. Please try to match your time to not get a lot of people standing up in a very small room, but you're welcome to come to any one of those things. Again, if you miss it, you're not missing anything related to the final test. So now, I want to look again at DFS and BFS in a more technical manner. And I want to continue with graphs for today. So let's put up a graph here and work a little bit on DFS and BFS. So here's, I'm going to draw one. I have a starting node. Sometimes we mark this with S, but it's just a regular node. And here's another node, and another node. I have a bunch of those here. Let's say S, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And I have, this is a directed graph. Here is S, A, B to E, C to B, F to A, E, G, D, go back, H, D, one more. That's my graph right here. I hope I didn't miss anything. So that's a directed graph, and I want to do a DFS. That's my task here. DFS starts in S. We said this last time when we talked about DFS the first time. What DFS stands for again? That's for search. That means once I go on some branch, I go as deep as possible in that branch, as opposed to BFS, which stands for breadth first search. I never go too far before I explore all the options I have. So I'm like a wave. That's a wave algorithm, right? I'm sitting here, who's immediately close to me. I'm gonna first, right? In DFS, I pick a branch and I go as far as I can. I keep going to some other branch only when that branch is completely done. So DFS is more complicated and more interesting and more useful than BFS. But when BFS applies, it's easy to see why it applies and how to get the result. We'll do BFS on this graph after we're done DFS. So I want to be more technical than last time. Last time I told you this story, DFS, depth first search, and I showed you visually on some slides that are posted online how the finishing and starting times work. Let's try to work that out in this example. So I start in S, that's here. I'm going to draw this in a particular manner. So here's S, and I'm going to put here I'm going to say this is start time, and this is the finish time. So in S, that's what I start. I start at time 0. Then from S, let's suppose I have two options. Anytime I have two options, I'm going to pick a random one unless I have some reason to pick a particular one. Maybe in a particular problem I want to go in a lexicographic order or some edge capacity order. There's some ideas how to do that for certain purposes, but if not, I'll just pick a random order. Let's say I go to A first. So I go to A, and then A will be discovered. Start, sometimes it's called discover. Let's call it discover, I think that's the standard name. Discover time, finish time. So I discovered A at time 1. I have a marker here that's a different color. Let's try to use that. So I'm going to color in blue these edges that I use for discovery. Those will be the 3 edges, DFS 3 edges. This blue, DFS 3, or advanced edges. So from A, I go to, in my paper here, from A I can go to E, right? So here's E. I went to E, that's time 2. From E, I go to F at time 3. So far, what did I get? I go to A. So let's put here the times. S is time 0. A is time 1. I went to E. That's time 2. And from E, I went to F. That's time 3. And now from F, I see this edge. The way this is going to work in computers, in a computer program, is I'm in F right now, and I'm saying, where else can I go from F? How do I do this? Where else? Where can I go from F? Where do I have to look in? What kind of data structure to decide where to go from F? So I know it makes sense as a story. I want to go from F, see where can I go. But in a computer program, what do I use to decide where can I go from F? Yes.
An array of visited nodes, and if it's in the pointer goes to the
not an array. I have to use the representation of the graph, which we said is 2 possible representations, right? Which ones are those 2 representations?
The adjacency list and the matrix.
Right, either the matrix or the adjacency list. If I use the adjacency list, which is the typical one, I'm going to say who's in the adjacency list of F, right? That list will be who in this graph? Just E, right? So effectively, when I say where can I go from F or from E or from B, I'm traversing that adjacency list only for F and say, where can I go? Now, can I use this edge or not? Yeah. No. So when I traverse that adjacency list, I go through all possibilities where can I go, but I have to know which ones are advanced edges, blue, and which ones are not advanced edges. How do I know that? So again, I'm in F, I say, where can I go? The adjacency list says you can only go to A. Fine. Do I take this as a blue edge? No. So how do I decide which edges are blue or advanced edges, which edges are not blue? Remember I showed you this very briefly last time? There's another thing going on here. Except for the edges and this particular, this is how my algorithm keeps track of where I am, and this structure here on the right. There is another thing on those slides that I showed you last time. There was the finishing time, discovery times, that stack in there, and what else? I color the nodes, right? At this moment when I'm in F, what's the situation with the colors? Who has what colors? If you remember from last time. This S has what color? Gray. I'm starting, but I'm not finishing. This one is gray, gray, gray. How about these other guys? White. So there's that's how I keep track. When I see this gray to gray, I'm like, that's not a blue edge. Blue edges are what coloring? Gray to white. That's how I discover things. I'm in a gray node, which I'm still exploring from there, and I go to only the white nodes. So I go through the entire adjacency list, but I know which ones are advanced edges, because that's the white nodes, and which ones are not advanced edges, or 3 edges, because they're not white. Good. So let's keep going with it. So I ignore this edge. Can I go anywhere else? No, so then I finish time 4, right? I finish F. I'm going to put here the 4 in black. Done. Now, what color is F now? Black, because I finished it. I go back to where I was. Back to where I was, it's down in this stack to E, right? From E, where else can I go?
G.
G, what time is that?
5.
Time 5. And then from G, I can go to, that's time 5. That's a blue edge, right? From G, I can go to D. That's time 6. And then from D, I can go to C. That's time 7. What else can I do from C? I can go to B. Is B still white?
Yes.
Yes. So I advance to it, time 8. And now I look at B. So let's put it here, B at time 8. And where else can I go from B? I look at the adjacency list of B. What do I see? E and D. What color is E right now? Gray. What color is D right now? Gray. So those are not advancing edges, right? I don't color them blue. I don't advance. I can't go anywhere interesting from B, anywhere new. So I close B at time 9. The counter always go +1, right? So that's 9. Can I go anywhere from C? Because I'm going back to C now. I'm closing this at time 10. And then I'm back at D. Can I go somewhere else from D? Yes, this node is still white. So I go here at time 11. And now I'm done here at time 12. So I'm going to add H here, time 11, 12, finish time. And then I'm back to D. Can I go anywhere from D now? No. So D is closing at time 13. I'm back to G, which is closing at time 14. I'm back to F is already done, so from G I'm back to E. E is closing at time 15, 16. Finally this closes. Now all the nodes are discovered, so I'm done. If I don't discover all the nodes, there might be some part of this graph that's disconnected. I have to start another DFS in there. And I start at time 18. When I start my next DFS run, if there is another part of this graph that I didn't go through it yet, that's still white, right? Then I'll start some node here at time 18. That will be, the counter always go up by 1. So that's good. I think everybody can see that the blue edges form a tree? That's a very important thing. That this, once you download DFS, these edges form a tree from where you started to where you're going. Now, two things here. One is, this is not unique. Anytime I say from there you could have gone there or there, now I could have chosen from S to go to B first, and then the whole DFS run, the whole tree will be different. That's one thing. We'll get to that in a second. Here I have a theorem for you guys to prove. Where can I write that? Let me do it here. Theorem. If you look at the discovery times, where I have that. So if U and V had two vertices, there are two possibilities. If you look at this is the time axis. I can have the discovery of one of them, U, and I can have then the discovery of V, and then I can have the finishing time of U, and of V, sorry. Finishing time of U. What situation would that be? I discovered this node U, but before I finish that node, I discover V and finish V. So how would that look? Here's my node U that's being discovered. It's colored gray. And then I go, until I find V, right? And then I have the discovery of U comes first. Then I have then the discovery of V. At some point, maybe I explore from V, I go back, I close V, and then I go back and close U. Right? That could happen. Here's another possibility. This is the timeline again. I could have the discovery of U. I could have the finish U, and then discover V, and then finish V. How would that look like? I discover U, I do my thing, and then I finish V. I came here from some node, and then once I finish U, I discover some other node, say V2. Let's not be confused here, V2. And then I discover V2 after I finish U. This whole branch is done. And then at some point, of course, I finish V2. So this situation, U is an ancestor of V in that discovery tree. Because I start U, but before I finish U, I discover V in that process. So V is discovered from U in here. In here, V is not discovered from U. I started with U, I finish U, I still haven't seen V2 yet. But then I see V2 after that. So in here, U is an ancestor of V. That means in the DFS tree, if you want to go from the start to V, you have to pass through U in here. The DFS tree that's being created, in order to get to U, you're going to have to pass through V. In here, U is not an ancestor. In other words, in here, if you look at the DFS tree, you have one branch that goes to U, and then some other branch that goes to this V2. U is not on the branch of V2. So here's what my exercise is for you guys. Exercise. This is not possible. What is not possible is to discover some node, discover another node, finish the first node and then finish the second node. Clearly, every discovery time has to be before the finish time for every node. But this particular arrangement, discover U, go from there, discover V, and somehow finish U before I finish V, that's simply not possible in DFS. So those two are the two possibilities of how the discovery and finish times could work for nodes. This is not. Now, why I'm insisting on this discovery and finish times? In a lot of problems, DFS is not the solution by itself. You need to do DFS as a pre-processing or as an initial step for some other things. And then what you actually need from DFS, it's either the tree or the finish and discovery times. Based on these times, you could do something interesting with them, right? And there's another thing that I'm gonna do right now, is the edge classification. I would like to do it here to have everything on one board. That's another thing that comes out of DFS, and it's very important for whatever purpose we might have. So let me do blue. That's obviously the most important ones. Blue edges. Those are the tree or discovery, and we say they grade to white. Good. What other things we have? We have back edges. Back edges are the ones that are gray to gray. And we said this last time, but we said it very briefly. What is a back edge indicative of immediately? When I see a back edge, gray to gray, means what? Where's the back edge in here? When I look at this edge FA, was that a back edge? Was F gray and A gray or not? How about this edge here, BD? When I go to B, I was at B. B was gray, obviously, because I'm there, it means it's gray. What color D was? Was D gray at that point in time when I was at B and I look at this edge? Right, so this, what about this one, D to G? When I was in D and I looked at all the edges, I saw D to G. Is that gray to gray? What are those edges indicative of? Cycle. You should know this because it's critical. Cycles are a very important property of a graph. Either have them or not have them, but also finding them. Find me a cycle of a certain length, of a certain node, certain edges. So DFS is a classical technique to find cycles in a graph. Any gray to gray edge means I found a cycle. How about BE? Is that also gray to gray in here? When I look at B, was gray, was E gray at that point in time? So I was at B, and I didn't finish B yet. I was at time 8. How do I know if E at that point in time was gray or not gray? Is there a way to look at this stack and say, when you were in B, that's where every edge is explored when I was in the source of the edge, right? This edge can only be explored from B. This edge can only be explored from F, right? Because a directed graph, this edge cannot be explored from A. It has to be F. So when I was in B, how do I know what was the situation of E? So I was at time 8, right? And then discovery time of E was, and the finishing time is 15. So at time 8, what color gray E was? Gray, because it was white before time 2 and became black at time 15. So any time between 2 and 15, E was a gray node. Hands up who's with me. This is not regular material, okay? I want to be clear about that. you cannot expect in a final exam a problem with DFS about discovery and finish time because everybody else will be dead. You're going to study this in your algorithms course. And you're going to need the discovery, finish times, and the edge classification. Because DFS is not going to solve your problem. DFS is a one step to do something with, and then we're going to need the output of DFS to keep going. But it's important to learn DFS this way, especially if you program it. That will be a great honor problem, but we run out of time. If you implement DFS, you should really organize the discovery and finish times and the edge classification, because you're going to use DFS as a procedure later on, and you're going to need the stuff out of it, not just the discoveries, the tree. Okay, so we've done this. This indicative of a cycle. But there are other edges, right? Are those the only type of edges I could get? So actually, let's name those edges. Which ones are this kind of edge? FA, we said. It's this kind of edge. What else?
BE.
Which one?
BE.
BE, BD, and BG. Is there any other edge? So let me mark those important edges, the cycles, like back edges, right? I'm not cutting them, I'm just making them special. These ones, right? So now we have two categories of edges. Blue ones are advancing. Those create the tree that finds new nodes. These snaky ones are going back, indicative of a cycle. Also very important if my purpose is to deal with cycles. Is there any other edge in here? This one here, right? When I'm back in S, at some point I was in S. So I went A, E, F, G, D, C, B, close everything, and I'm back in S. And I saw this edge now. I'm like, you could go to B, but B was what color? Black. So gray to black, gray to black. But there are two kinds of gray to black. This kind is discovery time of gray is smaller than the discovery time of the black. Is that the case here? So the edge we're looking at is SB. What's the discovery time of S? 0. What's the discovery time of B? 8. So I'm in this situation, right? This, it's called a forward edge. So let me put this SB in here. And there's another category, which is called cross. That is still gray to black, but the discovery of black is before the discovery of gray. So clearly, those are mathematically two possibilities. There's no other way. Gray to black, either the gray or the black is discovered first, one of them. But we don't have an example of such an edge here. How about we make one? Huh? What if I have another node here? What's the next letter that's coming in? I. And here like that. Where would I go? So the whole thing will go the same way, right? A first, E, F, G, D, H, C, B. I'm now back in S. I look at this edge, not useful. I look at this edge, I, so S is not finishing anymore at time 17. Everything is the same, but I goes here. What discovery time is that? 17. From I, where else can I go? I can go to A, but A at this point is what color?
Black.
Black or gray?
Black.
Black, because A is already closed. So A, I can't go anywhere. I close I at time 18, and then I'm going to go back to S and I close S at time 19, right? Now, what's the category SI? What kind of edge is SI? That's blue, because it's a discovery edge, right? So now changing the times a little bit, what do I have here? That's 17, and this is 18, and this is 19 here. I guess I missed some of them. So what happened? 10. This was closed at time 11. These to 13. So what happened at 11? I was discovering this. 13. G is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Now, what about this edge IA? What edge is this? This is gray to black, but which one is discovered first? The black or the gray? The black is discovered first, so that is edge IA right here. As an example of how this can happen. Okay? Now, just because I like DFS so much, I want to do it again with the same graph, just I'm going to start a little bit in a different order. So let's redo the stack here. We're still starting with S at time 0. But this time, I'm saying, how about we go to B at time 1? So I have the same graph. I'm not going to draw the edges again on the graph. But if I'm in B at time 1, so the times are not those ones in there. We'll have to redo the times. Where else can I go from B? I can go to E or to D, right? One of them. So I'm picking here E. That's time 2. From E, where can I go? F or G, picking F. So that's time 3. From F, where can I go? Can I go anywhere? Where? A. That would be time 4. From A, can I go anywhere? Can I? But E is not a discovery edge, right? I can go to E, but that's a cycle edge. So I'm closing A at time 5. Now I go back to F. Can I go anywhere else from F? No. So I'm closing F at time 6. I'm back at E. Can I go anywhere else from E? I can go to G. So put G here. And now G is at time 7. From G, can I go anywhere? I can go to D. That's at time 8. Now from D, I can go to H. H is at time 9. From H, I can go anywhere, so I close H. H is black now. Time 10. I'm back to D. Can I go somewhere from D? I can go to C at time 11. Anywhere else I can go? B is already in the list, right? So B is not closed, it's in the list. And then I don't need to put it here because that's not an advanced edge. The only ones I'm putting here are the ones that I'm advancing to. So C is closed at time 12. If I close this, I'm back at D, which is closing at time 13. I'm back at G, which is time 14 closing. Back at E, which is time 15. Back at B, which is time now 16. I'm now in S. What do I do? I can go to I. So if I go to I, that's time, what, 17? 17, closes at 18, and this closes at 19. Now, are the 3 edges the same as in there? No. What are the 3 edges? How does this go? S to B, right? From B I went to E. From E I went to F. From F I went to A. And then from F I went to, that's it from F. From E I went to G. G, D. DH. What else? CB? No.
No, SI.
SI. How about the back edges? Again, those are sometimes called cycle edges. Which ones were the cycle one? In the first DFS, FA was a cycle edge, right? But now FA is a discovery edge. Now the cycle AEF, that triangle there, one of these edges must be a back edge. No matter how you start exploring that cycle, eventually you're going to see an edge that's coming back. In this case, which edge is back? I went to B, to E, to F, and then A. Which edge is the one that's a back edge here?
AE.
AE. Now the other cycle, I think DG is the same. DG is a back edge. Is BD still a back edge in there? Like it was before? I discovered D, then C, so the discovery edge one was BC, and the other one was okay, so what's the cycle edge in there? What's the situation between B, D, and C? B was discovered first. Then somehow I went to D, and then I went to C, and now I see this edge CB. Is that CB a back edge? C is gray, but at that point in time was B gray?
Yes.
Right, so CB. How about the edge BD? When I look at that edge, I'm in B now, right? I've done exploring all the E, G, D, C, and I see the edge BD. I'm still in B. B is not closed, it's gray, but is D closed? D is closed, so that's it's gray to black. That's BD. But which gray to black is it? B is gray, D is black. Which one is discovered first?
B.
B. So which kind of edge is that one?
Forward.
Forward edge. Okay. And I have here SA also as forward. Is that true? SA in this new DFS is a gray to black edge, where S is discovered first and A later. Right. So that's what I want to show you about DFS. When you run DFS, you really need to keep track of the three edges. Of course, everybody wants the three edges. That's the DFS traversal. But the other edges also gets classified. I also have the cross edge here. I think the cross edge is still that IA1. And I need this, discovery and finish times for every single node. This will, if I give you this table, can you tell which edges were what? Say, I only show you this table. Which is the first node discovered? S. Then which is the second? What happened next? From S I went where?
B.
To B. Can I tell that from B I went to E? How? 1, 2, is that right? And then I can tell which ones are closing. This table is pretty good at describing what actually happened. Now, one more word about this. How do we implement this? I don't want to do it recursively. So what data structure do I need for this in here? Of course, I have to keep keep track of the discovery and finish times. So what is discovery time? That's an array, right? Finish, that's also an array of finishing times. But what is this? We didn't teach this, but it's a fundamental data structure. How does this stuff in here works? What's the name, first of all? Mathematically, it's a matrix, but in a computer science data structure, how do we call this procedure? This is not procedure, data structure. So stack. What properties stacks have? First that goes in is the last one to go out. For us, in means what? Discovery. And out means what? Finishing or closing, right? So it's not like we take it out. We could if we want to take it out. For us, discovery means in. That's the time when I got to put it in. And out means when I close that node is done. And do I have this property? So let's write that here. Stack. First in, last out. In means discovery, and out means finishing for us. But is that truly what's happening here? Anybody who got put after while I was still? So when I say E is still on the stack, what do I mean? When is E on the stack? Between what time and what time? 2 and 15. After time 15, E is out of the stack effectively. I mean, maybe I don't delete it, but I have nothing to do with it, right? So is it really happening this way that whoever got later has to be finished before the nodes that were already on the stack? I think that's effectively the same property like in here. That statement of stacks that says once you have a node that's not finished, if you put another node on the stack, right? If this is the time axis, V is added here after U while U is still on the stack because U is not closed yet. Then what the stack property says, you gotta finish V before you finish U because the stack has V. If you look at the stack, U is somewhere in here, and U is not done, and at some point V is put on the stack. Because of the stack property, V has to be taken out of the stack before U is taken off the stack out. For us, taken out means finishing. So finishing of V cannot happen before the finishing of U. Now, how many of you have seen or implemented or worked with any stack before? That's a thing that you have to catch up with. Don't wait for the course that does stacks. My strong advice to you. Stacks, trees, and queues, lists, arrays, basic data structures, you should take, tomorrow afternoon. I'm kidding. Christmas break to familiarize yourself with those things before they hit. Because they will hit. There will be a time when you really have to do them, but they're simple data structures that you have to know how to use. Now, how do we implement a stack? So that's the principle. Everything that gets put in the stack has to be taken out before the bottom. We can implement with an array or a matrix very easily, right? So that's what I have to say about DFS. Let's do, since we have this example, let's do BFS on it. I think that's rather easy. So maybe redraw it. Let's put that one I here too. Is that it? Or I missed something? So now if I do BFS, starting in S, at level 0 is S. Who's at level 1? That's 0. Who can I get to in one edge? 1, 1, 1. That's the first wave. This is the 0 wave. Right? So that would be I, A, and B, right? Who's at level 2? E is at level 2. F is at level 2? No. Who else? Only E?
D. Oh, no, never mind. You removed that edge. Sorry.
Only E? It's another wave. Did I miss an edge?
Yeah.
I did. I missed this edge, right? Which would make this level and C. Can I go to C also?
No.
No. So that's the 2 here. E and D. And then everything else is reachable at step 3. 3, 3, 3, 3. Can I reach everything or not?
Yes.
Yes. F, G, H, C. That's BFS. What would be the edges? If I want to draw in blue the advancement edges, from S, that's an advanced edge, that's an advanced edge, that's an advanced edge. Now, this is an advanced edge, or this is an advanced edge, or both? Both. So clearly, E can be discovered at wave 2 from either B or A. But only one counts as an advanced edge. You can modify BFS to get both of them, but then you don't get a tree, right? If I count both of them as an advanced edge, is this a tree now? No. So for that reason, we only count one of them, whichever node gets processed first. Say in that second wave, A is processed first, then A is going to do the advancement. What else I have as a, say, this node, where is this discovered from? This is from E, right? This is from E. This D here was discovered from D, that's the edge that we didn't put in. And then this is discovered from here. And this is discovered from here. So if you look at this tree, it starts from S. It goes B, A, I. From A goes to E. From B goes to D. And then E goes to F and G. And D goes to H and C. To C, that's the tree. Again, either this or this could be an edge, but to have a tree, we can only consider one of them. Now I'll have similar things that I'm not going to go into, like in the DFS, I look at the other edges. They're not so important as in DFS. DFS is used for more purposes, so we need all this edge classification. In here, we only have discovery times. So this in here are discovery times. Or wave time. Which wave is it in? And we can obviously need to keep track of the blue edges, because the blue edges are the actual traversal. This is how we found the nodes. But the other edges are not so critical in here. For particular problems, maybe we need them, but typically we need the tree and we need the discovery times. Notice that in BFS, there are multiple 2s and multiple 3s, because they're in that wave. In DFS, every node has its exact discovery and finishing time. Yes?
Is it true that the depth of a DFS tree is necessarily less than or equal to the depth of the DFS tree?
I think so. Actually, that's an interesting question. I would say that the path in BFS from where you started to whatever is the shortest path. Is that true? Yeah. Like, in other words, if some node is in wave 3, I'm claiming here that it's impossible to reach that node in fewer than 3 edges. Is that true or false?
True.
So let's write it down. Theorem, exercise. If the discovery of some node, this is BFS discovery of some node U is K, it means the shortest path from the source to that node U is K. Shortest path, I mean number of edges on path. Later on in algorithms class, you'll do a different kind of shortest paths when the edges have distances on them. But for now, every edge counts as 1, and I say shortest path means the minimum number of edges. Is that true that if a node is in wave 3, cannot be reached in fewer than 3 edges? Why? Why is that? 3 is an example, could be any k. What the theorem says, if BFS reaches some node in k steps, there's no path that's shorter than k steps. Why? Somebody can. Yes.
Because then it would be in a different level. It would have been found before.
Different wave. If
Yeah,
it would be, say, 2, then it would be in wave 2. Right. But for DFS, that's not true, right? You can go around and then discover, oops, there was a shortest path to there, right? Actually, we've done that. If you look at those paths in here, the way to go to some node like B, he went S, A, E, G, D, C, B, but the shortest path was S to B. Right? Good. So that's good. That's BFS and DFS. That's the most I want to say with them. Just remember, if you really want to study those, the right thing I think to do is to implement them from scratch. Doesn't matter how efficient your implementation is. And really keep track of these times and edge classification to have a proper output. Now, I want to show you an application of DFS. DFS is one of my favorites for the algorithms class. I teach at the master level. And a lot of the interesting exam questions are about DFS. So here's one that maybe that's one of my candidates for the final, but it was immediately ruled as way too hard. So that's not in the final. Here's a task. A graph, VE. I want to find a minimum. So the task is find a minimum size ancestors set A. So that's a subset of vertices. Minimum size is I want the subset the smallest size possible, such that what ancestor mean? For any vertex in the graph, there is a vertex, an ancestor, and the path A to V. This is how paths are get notated. If people say U straight V, what does that mean? This means edge. If I say U curvy line, V means path. Path means I can get from U to V, but not necessarily in one edge. I can hoop over few edges. So this is saying I want to find a set of ancestors, minimum, so one ideally, such that from that set of ancestors, I can reach anywhere in the graph. What would be the ancestor set on this graph? What's the minimum subset of vertices we can select so that from there we can reach everywhere? Which is
S.
S. S is the ancestor of this graph, because from S I can reach everywhere. But some graphs need more than one ancestor, right? I'm going to draw one right now. So, as an example here, what if I have a graph that's like this? Such a graph clearly needs both these nodes to be ancestors, because there is no way to reach them. Those nodes that have no incoming edges, they have 0 in degree. If they're not ancestors, they're not reachable. So this graph, every node that has a 0 in degree has to be part of the ancestor set. But the question is that enough? Can I just say, here's a naive solution. Every node that has no incoming edge has to be an ancestor, true or false? Yes, because those nodes are not reachable other way. If they're not in the ancestor, so they're not reachable. But are they sufficient? If I just say, put in my ancestor set all nodes that have no incoming edges, am I done? Is it possible that somehow I still don't reach the entire graph? That's possible, because otherwise this wouldn't be a master level interesting question, right? If you all you have to do is put the 0 degree nodes in there, that's pretty easy to do. So there are situations where nodes that have an edge incoming still have to be part of the ancestor set. So try to think about that problem. So the problem I want to do is not this one. This is an exercise. I proposed a version of this for the final. It got shut down immediately. So here's something that's important. Strongly connected components. SCC. This is a directed graph. Because in undirected graphs, components are very easy to find out, to discover, right? Think about it. If my graph is undirected, so this is undirected. SCC means just CC. A strongly connected component is just a connected component, right? Here's my graph, is disconnected. How many components are here? How many connected components are here? 3. How do I find them? So this is an undirected graph. I want to find the connected components. Connected components are a partition of the subset of V, the vertices, into subsets, such that in each subset, everything is reachable from one place to another. Right? So suppose my task is somebody gives me a graph and says, I want you to find the connected components of this graph. How do you do it? This is an easy question. So a graph is given by adjacency matrix or the adjacency lists, right? It's undirected. So every edge is good either way, that way or that way. How do I find these subsets of vertices that are, you know, in this in any one of them, so it can be, you know, more complicated. Any one of them, every node is reachable to every node, but across components, there is no way to cross from here to here. How do I find these components? Yes.
You can just take a node at random and then look at all of its adjacencies and all the nodes that it can get to, and it has a path to, and then put that in a subset. And then out of the remaining, pick another node. Keep doing that until one.
Right, that's doing it really from scratch. What I was asking, can I use some of this stuff? BFS or DFS? Can I do that and then discover the components? How? You're right. What you are doing effectively there, I think you're re-implementing BFS. You say start in a node, you say that's 0. These 3 are 1 because I can discover them from there. And then this one will be 2 because it's discovered from 1. Isn't that effectively BFS? So when am I done? How do I know I've done a component? Suppose I run BFS. I start in a random node. I start from here. I run BFS. I discover these nodes. And then the moment I have nowhere to go in BFS, but I have other nodes in the graph, then I know that's a component, that's done. Run another BFS starting in a node that I haven't done yet, and keep going with it. Hands up with me. Is this a hard thing to do? I think it's very easy if you understand what traversal in a graph means. Either BFS or DFS will do this, right? Because it doesn't matter breadth first search or depth first search here. I start in a node, everywhere I can reach, that's a component. Done. Either I'm done with the whole graph, or there's unexplored nodes. I jump in an unexplored node, I run another run of BFS or DFS, everywhere I can reach, that's another component. Again, I'm asking myself, is that done or not done? If I still have nodes that are not explored yet, I pick one random, explore from there, everything I can discover is the third component, so on and so forth. That's easy because these edges have no direction. All the edges are unidirectional. By the way, I skipped something here. This is a stack. How do you implement this? This equivalent analogous data structure, but for BFS. What is this? This idea that I put S in there, and then I put IAB, and now I have IAB. From IAB, I have to process them to get to E and D, and then I have to process E and D to get to those, right? Because that's how this BFS works. You go from S to here, S is done now, and then from those 3 I get to those. What kind of data structure do I need in here to make this work?
So is that just a list and you don't have to keep track of anything before?
A list is how you can implement this. You can implement a stack with a list or array, but the actual conceptual data structure is what?
Is this a queue?
That's a queue. A queue is what?
Just an order, like it's like a list, but it has an order of when you're doing things.
First in, first out.
Is that what happened here? S got first in. Once I process S, I got the next stage of the queue. Is S out now? Right. Once I have this my queue, I, A, and B, I process those nodes in some order, I get E and D. Can I throw away I, A, and B? Stacks and queues is something that, again, if I were you, I wouldn't wait for them to hit me. I would preempt the hit with, okay, how this stuff works. Let me implement a tree, a stack, a queue, a list, array, matrices, all of that, so you play a little bit with them. Conceptually, first in, first out, first in, last out, because on a stack, what you put last, you have to take first. underlying, you can implement them with array or lists or whatever operations, physical structures you need to have. You're going to see in algorithms book something called in-queue or dequeue. That's operations on a queue that says put something on a queue, take something out of the queue, or push or pop out of a stack, right? On a stack, we have push, pop, and on a queue, we have in-queue, dequeue. So in-queue means add an element to the queue. Dequeue means take the element from the head of the queue. Push and pop means push an element to the stack. Pop takes an element out of the stack. Now this is conceptual. In practice, if you use a list on array, you have to manipulate that list on array to make these operations possible. Okay, so now, do we all understand that this is just a simple BFS? The only trick in here is to ask, am I done? If I'm not done, run another BFS from some unexplored node and keep going, and that's going to discover the components. What if this graph is directed? What if this graph is directed, then I want to keep the same definition. Here's a weird edge. Remember when I say simple graph, this is not allowed. But if I want to allow, I just have to specify, I can allow a looping edge that loops back to that node. In this graph here, let's say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I want to keep this notion of SCC means components in or subsets where every path UV exists. So in here it's clear that if you don't see an edge, that's a component. That's easy to see visually because edges means connectivity both ways. But in the other graph, it's not that easy, right? What are the components in the other graph? This one directed. Can I reach from everywhere to everywhere in this graph? If I can reach from everywhere to everywhere, that means the whole graph is one SCC.
What's the edge from B to E?
From B to?
E.
So, can I reach from anywhere to anywhere here? Give me an example from where to where I cannot reach.
H to
Where? H to anywhere. What else? Can I reach from F to A? Remember, any edge in a directed graph can only be used in the direction of that edge. So F to A, doesn't matter that on the board there is a line here and a line here. The direction doesn't check out. So what are the components? What are the things that you can reach from anywhere to anywhere? And by components, I mean maximal. Like FG is a component. I can reach from F to G and from G to F. But can I include another node in this component that's also back and forth reachable? No. So that's a component right here. Again, I want to make them maximal. What's another component? Is CDH a component? No. What's a component then? C and D? Is C and D in the same component with B? It's just C and D, huh? That's a component. H is its own component because, like we say, from H we cannot reach anywhere. And is ABE a component? Can I reach from anywhere from? Okay. So now imagine this question. I give you a directed graph, and I'm asking, find me the strongly connected components. What do you do? So here's why this is difficult. We clearly can run an algorithm like DFS or BFS, right? That's easy. But the problem is, if I start in here, say, I'm going to discover that component, obviously, because it's reachable anywhere I start in A, B, or E by running any traversal algorithm, BFS or DFS, I'm going to find the other nodes. Problem is, I'm going to find a lot more. Because DFS will eventually find this edge and this edge, and will explore the whole graph. Right? Can I tell in B to DFS, hey buddy, don't go to C. C is no good. Because there's no way to come back. Right? That's what that's my wish here. To tell DFS, which is my favorite, it's okay to keep going exploring as long as you can go back. Right? Like B to C is not good because once you go on that side, there's no way to go back into this component. See, in here, it's okay to keep going because from any node I can go back to anywhere. But as soon as I move in another component like this one, I can't go back from here to that. So can you modify DFS to do this? To say somehow you can go if you can come back. Or maybe that's just the wrong track. Maybe modifying DFS is not the right thing. Is there a way to solve this problem?
So you can make DFS go through and then like, reverse all of the edges to go backwards, and then go through again, like take it off the stack, and you can still go back.
So here's what she's saying. It's true. That's how we solve this problem. She's saying you have to start your DFS after some pre-processing. Really. You were saying run DFS again the second time? Right. So let's start with that DFS. Here's what she's saying, really, which is not that complicated. If I start my DFS in this component here, that's okay. Because out of this component, I can go out. So I can start the DFS here and did what I did here. Start in here, explore everything you can, which is just H. That's my component. Now imagine that this is done, like blacked out. You can't do it. Which is the other component that I could do the same? Start the DFS such that when you finish exploring, you can declare that's a component. Can I start in here? Again, I'm assuming this is already done. It's not part of the graph anymore. Now I found this component. Now I can say, start another DFS in here. Would that discover only this component? No. But which one is the one that I can do that still?
F and G.
I can do F and G, right? Is if I start in here, assuming this is out, again, see how I can get out of it? So it's okay to start the DFS here because everything you can find in there, that's a component. So that's the idea. If I could somehow start my DFS in the right component, I could just eliminate that component because that would be the one that you can come out of it, and then repeat the process and find all the components. In fact, if I imagine a new graph with this component, this is a post-mortem analysis. It's not what the procedure does, just the analysis. Now, ABE, we said it's a component, and CD, it's a component. This is the SCC graph. It's kind of a meta graph there. And FG is a component, and H is a component. What are the edges between those components? From where can I go to where? Where can I go from ABE? CD. And can I go to FG? And CD I can go to FG. And from FG I can go to H. And from CD I can go to H. What kind of graph is this? I have a theorem for you to prove. The SEC graph is a DAG. Who remembers DAGs? Stands for what?
Directed.
Directed, acyclic graph. So directed, of course, is directed. It's a graph. What acyclic stands for? No cycles. Why there are no cycles in this graph? Not in the first one, in this one. Why you can't have cycles in here? Between the components, you cannot have a cycle. Yes. So, hold on. Yes.
Because they would be part of, then they would be part of this.
Right. If I have a cycle, everything in that cycle will be one component because it means I can reach from everywhere to everywhere. In a cycle, I can reach all the nodes, right? If A, B, this, and this would be a cycle, it means they will be all the same component. Hands up who's with me. Oh, that's very good. So there couldn't be cycles between components because there wouldn't be different components. So because this is a DAG, what did we do last time with DAGs? There is a way to put the graph on a line, remember? So let's redraw this on a line. Who goes first? ABE. Then who goes first? After ABE, who goes there on a line? CD. Why CD and not the other one, FG? Because there's an edge, right? And then H. So now let's do the edges. AB goes to CD, AB goes to FG, CD goes to FG, CD goes to F, and FG to F. Remember topological sort, the graph can stay on the line. So now that I see my graph on the line, how should I run the DFS to get the components out? Where should I start the DFS to get the component out? I have to start in here, right? When this one's out, I do this one. Because DFS on a line graph can only advance to the right. If it's nothing on the right, it's just going to output that component and be done with it. Of course, that's all analysis. It's not the procedure because I still don't know how to start in H, right? If I could determine I need to start in H my DFS, I'll get H out. Then I start another DFS in F or G. I get that component out, eliminate it. Then I start in C and D. But how do I determine I need to start in C or D or F or A? I need to run some other algorithm to determine which components I need to start. So suppose I do run a DFS first. That's not the one that's going to output the components. It's another DFS just to clarify my thoughts here. I want to see where should I start. Is everybody on the same page with me that if I start in H at DFS, I get that component out, then that's done. I get another DFS. I need to start in here, not in here or here, because if I start in them, I get these other ones out too. I need one here, then here, then here, then here. But how do I determine this? If I run a DFS on the main graph, start at random, maybe my start and finishing times will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember discovery finish time? 10. That's done now because I started here. I explored this side of the graph, and then say I started here at 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. These are my discoveries on the left, finish time on the right. So I need to go to the place where I say start in this one. I split my algorithm into two phases. One is figure out where to start my DFS, and the other one is actually run DFS in the proper order. So now I look at my starting and finishing times, and I'm like, how the hell I'm going to find H, 5 and 6, right? It doesn't look like there is a way here to pinpoint H, because H is the one that I really want, right, to start in. Remember, if I start anywhere else, I'm not going to get the component out. I need to start on the SEC DAG on the one to the right. But how do I identify H in here? I run a DFS at random. This is a post-mortem analysis that I do just to figure out what I want to do, right? I'm saying, here's DFS, I need to start in H. How do I identify H?
Isn't that where the distribution and the finish line are one as it's smallest?
You mean when it's 5, 6 consecutive numbers?
Yeah, and it's smallest.
But what if I had another node here? H, V, back. You know what I'm saying? Suppose this is not just H. Suppose this is some other things. And this is a really, you know, something like that. If that would be the case, 5 and 6 wouldn't be next to each other, right? And then I'd have a component. This is still the component I would need to have last, but it's not that the numbers discovery and finish times are close to each other. Make sense what I'm saying? So I don't think that's it. I run this DFS again the first time. I look at those times. Now, I don't see a way to identify H, which is the one I want, this component. Yes?
I was wondering, would it be possible to do it by knowing that H was the last one to be discovered in that subgroup before you finish out the first C?
Which subgroup?
So you started off with C, so H is the last one to be discovered before you finish C. Well, no, I guess that's not correct.
That's not.
No.
You see how I'm stuck in here? My attempt here is to somehow identify a vertex in this component, which could be H or could be more components, because this component in a line graph, in the DAG, in the SEC graph, is the last one. That's the one I really need. But I tried to do something, DFS, maybe BFS would have been better, to try to identify somehow that point. You were saying something early on, I don't know if, what's that? Say again.
Where you have to like reverse the edges.
If I reverse the edges, what would be the component? Imagine all these edges reversed, all of them, not just everything is reversed. What would be the component I need to start the DFS to get one out? ABE, right? Because now it's the other way. If I start in ABE, all the edges point to the left. So if I start in ABE, I'm done. Then I'll start in CD, I'm done. Can I identify ABE looking at my DFS? How do I know a node that's in ABE? This is a DFS, it's a random DFS. I just pick a random to start in C. And she was saying, you shouldn't look for H. You should really reverse the edges because you can identify AB. You cannot identify this H like you want, but you could identify ABE. And that's okay, reversal edges run DFS in that order then. How do I identify ABE? What's special about ABE that I can tell from this DFS, the first one? Yes?
It was in its own component.
Right, that's its own component. But looking at the finishing and discovery times, can I pick a node in ABE?
So ABE is kind of self-contained. Like after A, B, and E, they're discovered and then finished in like the same order.
So ABE is the component that has only outgoing edges. And when I reverse all the edges, we'll have only incoming edges, will not have anything outgoing. I need to find a vertex, any vertex in ABE, so because I want, after reversing the edges, to start from there. How do I pick that? By my initial analysis of the graph. Yes?
If you're in A, B, or E, if you can get through the entire graph with one depth first search.
That's particular for this case.
Okay.
That's happening here, but it's not necessary in every graph. There's a different thing that's happening in ABE. We way into the master program now. Okay. Yes.
Could it be that you can pick any vertex inside ABE, and at which point you can run any type of search?
Right, but
and
how
find
do I
other
pick?
node?
I run DFS, right? The first DFS. How do I pick a node in ABE? DFS gives me, remember, a tree, classification of edges, discovery times, and finish time. How do I go by all these, the tree, the classification, discovery, and finish time, to say, here's the node you need? Any node A, B, or E would be good. But how do I know not to pick F or G or C? That's the question.
Everything that's discovered after it finishes before it. Like,
I think that's correct, but it can be phrased much more
like
simple.
if you start at A, B, or E, and you do DFS from there, anything that you discover after your starting place will have to be closed. before
Right,
you
that's
get
true,
back.
if I start from A, B, and B. But remember what I did as an analysis before going here. I ran a DFS at random from C, happened. That was a random choice. Now I have to, how do I, of course if I see this, I could start from A, B, but my problem is I don't know how to pick a vertex in A, B now. The first DFS output is the three edges, right? So I went here, I went here, and I went here, and I went here. Those are three edges. And then from B, I went here and here. So I went these blue edges. And I marked the finish and discovery times. Now out of all this, how do I determine a node that's in ABE? That's using her trick that says you gotta reverse these edges because H you cannot identify, but this one you can. What's an ABE? Yes.
Do you look for a cycle? What is it, I think?
Cycle are in here too, or could be in here too. How about that 16 in there? What is that? Is the last what?
Finish time.
Finish time. I have a theorem for you to prove. Last finish time is in the component where we need to start second phase. So if you think of this as the first phase analysis, and then we say, okay, we want to discover the components now. We want to start in a node in ABE. That node is the one who has the last finishing time of DFS, independent of where I started at DFS. I started in C, but I could have started in F or in H or D. The last finishing time has to be in ABE. That's an interesting thing to prove. We won't do it, but that guarantees that once I do the first DFS, I look for the finish time, last finish time. Starting in here, it's going to just output that component after reversing the edges, and then keep going this way. All right. So that's an application of DFS. SCCs are super important because two things. People with, of course, a lot of the edges correspond to natural properties like cars, water flow, flights, you name it. Who's friends with who in a non-reciprocal manner, or how prerequisites work from what course you can take another course. SCCs are important in that sense. Also helps a lot computation because DAGs are a lot easier than regular graphs. Breaking a regular graph into a DAG of SCCs and then doing pieces for every SCC component, it's a pretty good strategy to deal with big graphs. So identifying SCC components is a very building block of how to deal with a lot of graph problems. I want to say one more thing here, which is a problem that I want to post for you to solve, which is coloring. So coloring refers to, I have k colors for, it is vertex coloring for vertices. And every edge UV means UV must have different color. So when I say color the vertices, I mean any edge cannot be red to red or blue to blue. So here's a basic idea, two color. Two color is possible if this is the red and this is the blue. All the edges must be red to blue. Right? Two color means bipartite. If two coloring is possible, if I can color the whole graph with red and blue, it means every edge must be from a red to a blue, right? And then I have to have this bipartition. In other words, there's no edge between reds or the blues. So my question for you is, for a general graph, given of course by B and E, the matrix or the edge list, can it be colored with, say, K equal 3 colors? So I have a graph. If it's bipartite, I can color it with 2 colors. That's an if and only if. If it's bipartite, 2 colors. If it's 2 colors, must be bipartite. That's the only way. But how about 3 colors? What graphs can be colored with 3 colors? How about this graph? How many colors I need here? I need 4 colors. Those vertices have to have 4 different colors because there's an edge between any 2 of them. If you put 2 of them the same color, you fail. So you need 4 colors. That's true for all clicks. Clicks of size K must have K colors. That's the only way. But how about 3 colors? What graphs can be colored with 3 colors? Here's another statement related to this, the last thing. If the graph is planar, that means can be drawn without edge crossing. Things like this. Edges cannot cross each other. Then we need at most 4 colors. Any graph that can be drawn in such a way that the edges in plane don't intersect can be colored with 4. This is a very complicated theorem. It's been hundreds of years before somebody eventually in 1980 proved it. A complicated thing. How about the maps? If I look at the political maps of countries, you know, with borders, remember how the countries work? Countries. How many colors do I need to color a political map? 3. So coloring problems are very much graph theory, pure graph theory. That's what I have to say. I hope you guys enjoy the course, and I wish you good luck, you know, and everything you want to say. As an observation, I want to say something that I'm not supposed to say. The school doesn't want me to say that. And everybody, you know, during your 4 years program will tell you what's important. This is important. Coloring is important. Induction is important. That's important. Network is important. Web development is important. Everything is important. I say you gotta eventually judge for yourself what's important. No matter who says what, you have to develop a sense of, okay, everybody says something is important. At some point I have to decide for myself what is important. Now, you can't decide it's important to sleep at home, you know, wake up late, do nothing. That's not a good decision. But you can follow other people's what's important. As part of your bachelor degree, eventually you have to be able to say, nah, you know, coloring's not that important. Whatever. I mean, you have to decide for yourself what is important. Don't get distracted by thousands of people telling you what to do. They're all good, well-intended, and they all know their stuff. But you have to find your own way at some point. Not necessarily right now, not necessarily next term, but before you finish, you gotta decide, I think networking is important for me, and just keep pushing that one. Okay. We'll see you again today at office hours, and we'll see you maybe Monday at the review. And thank you.
Since tomorrow is due at 6 o'clock, I can't really meet you tomorrow. I'll just be like, want to meet today? Alright, that's it. Maybe. Like an hour?
Sure, because I need to finish that.
Let's do like 4:30.
That's not the class.
Okay, well, that will be 5:30. Sure. Can you just look over something before that? Yeah. I already saw something on stage for the
I'm gonna listen to Virgil's advice and not listen to his advice.
I'll start changing it. I'll start changing it where I see fit, and then when we meet
I did all
up.
the homework except for the last part of 6.
Yeah, we'll do it on your laptop.
Okay.
You're so cute. No, I don't say I have a class, but I do have a
won't do
class.
any later.
They're gonna cut that out.
Even if I weren't, I mean,
I don't think they're going to count like a lot as part of the grade, but they will count somewhat, 10%. So I'm happy to wait here. If you feel like you can submit some of them later on, that's fine. But I don't know if you want any. Gone. We have to find a way. And then that has to be based on what you actually give.
Wait, you already applied?
But no later.
No, I'm not.
For the
Guys, video.
I would say,
First step, I think, in the front.
after the final because it's disturbing the situation. I don't want that. Hey.
I'm gonna screenshot that. I'm gonna screenshot that.
Yeah, find it and send it to me.
Whatever the conversation is, used to be in Rider 143. I think it's getting there. Today is nice. 6. You want to take the exam early. I don't know if we announce it. We don't plan to announce it formally. I think it's on Friday the 6th. Yeah. So there is a plan for people in your situation. I think it's going to be like this. You should email Ariel. She's in charge of this. So you can say, I talked to Virgil since the beginning of the term. I'm in a flight situation problem. Maybe on the 6th. I don't know the exact time. I think it's going to be a few people in an office. Hey. Thank you. Sure. If you want to wait, we can talk.
I'll probably be at the recitation room.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I told John.
You did? Yeah.
He's teaching recitations now. Few of